It feels like the definition of adding insult to injury is watching Danny Coulombe just mow down parts of the Orioles order 2 nights in a row. Yeah, we'll talk about it coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Thursday, May 8th, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we are going to take a look at another not-so-great night of baseball for the Baltimore Orioles, as it looks like, as I'm recording here in the top of the ninth inning, it is another loss to the Minnesota Twins. So I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from Wednesday night's game. Then we'll talk a bit about Danny Coulombe, who could have been an Oriole again this year. He is not, and he is flourishing in the Minnesota Twins bullpen. I'll talk about just how much I miss him. And finally, we did get some positive Orioles news on Wednesday. Zach Eflin is coming off the injured list to rejoin the Orioles rotation this weekend in Anaheim. Talk about how the O's might set up that rotation and what roster moves they might make, as the team will get slightly healthier coming up this week. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We start today with what looks to be an Orioles loss. I am kind of watching out of the corner of my eye the ninth inning as Jackson Holliday was called out on a pitch clearly off the plate for the first pitch of the top of the ninth, with the Orioles trailing the Minnesota Twins 5-2. One of the nastier closers in baseball, Joan Duran, is on the hill. I am assuming this is going to end in another Orioles loss, which would mean they lose this series. They drop the first 2 in Minnesota, and they fall to 13-22, 9 games under 500, a season high. 9 games under 500 on the season. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from Wednesday night's loss. And the first thing you need to know is Charlie Morton got the start, maybe a spot start, maybe not. We'll see. But he was just regular bad in this game. He was not horrendous. He was not despicable. He did not take the Orioles out of the game 2 innings in. He was just regular bad. And honestly, things started out okay for Charlie Morton. He struck out the first 2 batters he faced in a 1-2-3 bottom of the first inning against the Twins. He did allow a base runner in the second, but got out of it, put up a 0. The Orioles take the lead in the top of the third, Morton back to the hill. It's like, this is going a lot better than we've generally seen. It was just the third start this year in which Morton had begun the game with a scoreless first and a scoreless second inning. And you're like, okay, I'm not expecting a lot, but that was even better than I thought. The 2 scoreless innings to begin the game. And then, of course, we saw everything that has hurt Charlie Morton throughout this season. He allows a leadoff single to Willie Castro in the third. Then he is facing the number 9 hitter in the Minnesota order, which is Cody Clemens, who is a waiver claim, who's hitting 100 this year. And, of course, he, I guess, technically hit him with a pitch, but the hit by pitch was on a 3-1 fastball inside. If Clemens gets out of the way, it still would have been a walk anyway. Either way, it's a free pass. First and second, no outs. It flips it up to the top of a very dangerous Minnesota Twins top of the order. And Morton says, all right, I got to make sure I get ahead. I can't get behind another hitter. So he hangs a first pitch curveball right down the middle. And Byron Buxton smashes it out to left field for a 3-run homer. And it's immediately 3-1 Twins. And that was like, well, that's the Charlie Morton we know. And he did settle back down, get through the rest of the third, put up a pretty quick 0 in the fourth to keep it 3-1. Orioles kind of cut it to 3-2 in the top of the fifth. And that was the end of Morton's day. The Orioles, even though he was only at 70 pitches, they went to the bullpen. So Morton's final line in this start, 4 innings, 3 runs, 4 hits, 2 Ks, a walk, and a homer on those 70 pitches. Just 5 hard hit balls by the Twins offense against him. Actually lowered his ERA to 9.38 on the season. I'm not going to call it progress for Charlie Morton. I mean, he still had a terrible inning where the walks hurt him, and it is still funny that the Orioles have now lost all 9 games that Morton has pitched in, all 9 of them. They are 0-9 when Morton pitches, and they are a 500 baseball team at 13-13 in games that Morton doesn't pitch. Not a huge thing, not saying they're good when he's not out there, but I'd love for the Orioles to be playing 500 baseball right now, and they certainly are not. For Morton, we'll see if this means he's going to get another chance, but at least he was competitive this time. That has certainly not been the case for a few of his starts this season. Now, the second thing you need to know from this one is that the bullpen behind him at least briefly kept the Orioles in this game. O's, I guess 70 pitches from Morton. He keeps you in the game. He's been so bad this year. You have a semi-rested bullpen. You might as well get him out of there as early as you can. And they did. And Brian Baker threw up a 0 in the 5th. Sir Anthony Dominguez threw up a 0 in the 6th. They were keeping it a 3-2 game, giving the Orioles offense chance after chance to come back in this game, which, of course, they did not really take advantage of. They haven't been really doing that lately. And then kind of the big blow in the 7th, Keegan Aiken allows a pinch hit 2-run homer to Harrison Bader that makes it 5-2, basically puts the game on ice. Matt Bowman did throw up a 0 bottom 8, but yeah, I mean, the bullpen, even with the giving up the 2 runs, they've clearly been the best unit out of starting pitching, offense, defense, bullpen. They have been the best unit of the 4 for the Orioles this season through 35 games. Again, you can't argue that. And they tried to keep them in the game the best they could, but we are starting to see over the last couple of games the bullpen getting worn down because they've gotten such short starts and just such bad starting pitchers. And it's not good to see that in May, but that is what we're seeing right now. And so if that starts to falter, like, who knows how bad this can get at the moment. Now, the third thing you need to know from this loss is the Orioles offense is just kind of lost right now. Like, it is not fun to watch at all at the moment. Now, the Orioles did have 10 hits in this game, and you like to see that. I mean, that's having a pulse, but 8 of those 10 hits were singles. They only had 2 extra base hits in this game. They didn't come through in the clutch really at all. I mean, we'll get to the one hit they had with a runner in scoring position. They went 1 for 4. It's not like they put together a lot of big chances, but they had some runners on in the 5th and in the 8th and in the 7th, and they were trying to rally late, and they were hitting singles, and of course really could not get the big one at all in this game. But it is rough to watch. I mean, the struggles continue for Cedric Mullins. He goes 0 for 4 with a strikeout. He's now 1 for 21 in the month of May as the game just went final with a Heston Kjerstad strikeout. Orioles do lose 5-2 to the Twins and are now 13-22 on the season. Just not good. I mean, they grinded into a couple of big double plays that killed some rallies, including a huge one in the 8th inning that who would have thought Ryan Mountcastle grounds into a double play to end an inning. It's not good to watch right now. They're not coming through. They're not really doing anything offensively right now. And that's the part of the team I have the most confidence in turning it around this year. But man, oh man, do they look bad. And not just lately, it's kind of been most of the season at this point. Now, the fourth thing you need to know from this loss is that it was the bottom of the order that at least got the runs across and at least did pick some things up in this game. Ramon Laureano had 2 extra base hits in this one. He opened the scoring with a solo home run to lead off the 3rd against Twin starter Simeon Woods Richardson that gave the Orioles a 1-0 lead. He also had a double with 2 outs in the 5th inning. That was nice to see. Hit a ball the other way. So a nice little 2-hit game for Laureano. Ended up scoring both Orioles runs on the night. And then Heston Kjerstad, Laureano was hitting 7th. Kjerstad hitting 8th in this game, had 2 singles, including an RBI single right after that Laureano double in the 5th, a hit with a runner in scoring position that cut the lead in half, made it a 3-2 game. Just the 4th multi-hit game of the season for Kjerstad. And that RBI single in the 5th off of Woods Richardson, his first RBI since April 18th. It has not been going very well for Heston Kjerstad, really getting his first chance to be an everyday player right now with the injuries to Colton Cowser and Tyler O'Neill, and not super taking advantage of it at the moment, but the 2-hit game was definitely good to see. And then even Emmanuel Rivera added himself a single out of the 9 spot in that 5th inning rally where the Orioles got a run, but couldn't get any more. Not what I wanted to happen, but he was starting at third base while Kobe Mayo was on the bench for Wednesday's game. I really wanted the Orioles to give Mayo just as much of a track as possible before Westberg and Arias got back, and that's not what they fully chose to do here. But Rivera's hit a little bit, and Mayo hasn't, so there is that. And yeah, they got something from the bottom of the order, which was certainly nice to see. And the 5th and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 5-2 loss to the Minnesota Twins on Wednesday night as they drop another series is that I do not like this. This is not fun to watch. This has been a good baseball team for 2 straight years, a postseason baseball team for 2 straight years. Even you fold in 2022, they didn't make the playoffs, but they had a winning record. And really after May, they were a super fun baseball team to watch for the final 4 months of that season. And even the last 2 months of last year, when it was a struggle to watch them, they still played like 500 ball and they still got into the postseason. There was still a reason to tune in every single night. We're at May 8th here, and I don't know if that's the case right now. Now, I'm going to still do my job, and I'm going to still tune in, and I'm going to still get you all the analysis you need right here on this show, and make sure you're tuning into Locked On Orioles. But I've got to do my job, but I don't have to like it. Like, there is no life in this team. It's not fun to watch them. The starting pitching's bad. The offense is bad. The bullpen's trying to hang on for dear life. The defense is not very good. I kind of have to watch it. I'm going to continue, and I still love the Orioles, and I'm going to, again, break everything down on this show. But if it's going to make you miserable, you don't have to watch the Orioles right now. I mean, you got the Capitals in the playoffs. You got the NBA playoffs. You've got the WNBA season starting up. You've got plenty of great TV shows and movies out there. Like, if you want to take a little Orioles break, now would be the time. What I would tell you is, hey, you don't have to watch the game. You can free yourself of the game. Just join me here at Locked On Orioles the next morning, get the recap, and move on with your day. Sounds like a great time right now, a better time than it is watching these games, because it is not good, and it was another not good loss on Wednesday night. And it hurt even more again, because we saw a guy who could easily be on this Orioles roster right now, helping them help defeat the O's the last two nights. That was our old friend, Danny Coulombe. We'll kind of go back in time to talk about why he's not with the O's here in 2025, and why this was another just wrong decision by Mike Elias in the front office over this offseason. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. And today's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And you could take a look at which players are showing up in the biggest moments, right? I mean, look at these big moments that have happened over the last couple of nights. You have the big three from Aaron Gordon to win game one for the Nuggets. You got the big three from Tyrese Halliburton to win game two for the Pacers. You got the big free throws from Jalen Brunson to win game two for the Knicks. There are upsets happening in the NBA playoffs right now. And maybe you track those trends and you smash the over on points for those guys, Brunson and Halliburton and Aaron Gordon. That might certainly help you out. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So for the Orioles, it was once again not good. And they lost, and it hurt even more because Danny Coulombe contributed to that loss because he is now on the Minnesota Twins. He threw a scoreless inning in Tuesday night's game. He threw another scoreless inning on Wednesday night's game out of the Twins bullpen in admittedly a bigger spot, a much tighter spot, a one-run game in the 5th and 6th on Wednesday. But it made me think again, like, why is Danny Coulombe not on this team? Now, to kind of take you back to what happened with the Orioles and Coulombe. The Orioles actually got Coulombe from the Twins. It was a small trade right before opening day in 2023. He was coming off hip surgery. He'd barely pitched the year before. He didn't make the Twins roster, but he jumped in and he shined for the Orioles. He was throwing all that junk from the left side, 5-6 pitches, ran it to a 2.81 ERA in 51 and a third innings out of the Orioles pen in 2023. And then he started to do it again in 2024. Had a 2.12 ERA in 29 and two-thirds innings with more great strikeout rates and walk rates in 2024. But then the injury came. He went on the injured list last June with elbow inflammation and ended up missing 3 months of last season after getting surgery to remove bone chips from his left elbow. Now, he did come back in mid-September to rejoin the bullpen. He was on the playoff roster as well, but his velocity was way down across the board. And of course, we know not a guy that throws very hard anyway. He's 91, maybe up to 92 with his fastball, but every pitch was down over 2 miles an hour when he came back. All the spin rates were down. The stuff plus was down on every offering. It was very concerning. And he battled his way through the end of the season and, the quick 2-game postseason. But at the end of the year, there were serious concerns about Danny Coulombe. Now, the Orioles had to decide on a $4 million team option for Danny Coulombe for 2025. What that meant is they either pick up the option, they bring Coulombe back for 1 more year and pay him $4 million, or they decline the option, they pay him nothing, and he becomes a free agent 1 year early. And when the Orioles made that move, I remember kind of breaking it down from both sides because I understood why the Orioles declined the option. They clearly thought, okay, Danny Coulombe is 35 years old. We just had him undergo an elbow procedure to get bone chips out. When he came back, the stuff, everything was way, way down. Everything that makes him good was seemingly gone. Even the command was off when he came back as well. It was not the usual Danny Coulombe. And they're thinking he's already 35. He's coming off elbow surgery. He's had plenty of injuries in his career. He might be done. And I didn't fault the Orioles a crazy amount for that take because you could clearly see it like with your own eyes where they were coming from with that take. And I thought too, hey, he might actually be cooked. This may not really hurt the Orioles to let him walk. But at the time, and you can go back and listen to the episodes of this show from back in, I guess it would have been October or November when the Orioles were making those decisions. What I also said was, it's not like it's a 10, 15, $20 million option where if you decline it, you can save that money and really use it somewhere else. It was $4 million. And it's not like John Angelos is the owner anymore. It was the first David Rubenstein offseason. And he had made it clear that, hey, with 1-year deals, we're willing to spend whatever it is. And a 1-year, $4 million deal to bring Danny Coulombe back, even though the Orioles maybe didn't spend as much as people wanted, like that would have been nothing in the pocketbook of David Rubenstein, especially with the other deals that they did actually give out throughout the offseason. So my argument was he could be cooked. I really was on board with, I think it could be over for Coulombe, but my argument was he's been so good for you out of the bullpen for the past 2 years that it's worth it to just throw him the $4 million, get him into camp, put him on the roster, and just see how long it lasts. If he's bad early, you DFA him. It's $4 million. That's nothing to David Rubenstein. If he's good, but he gets injured, again, it's $4 million. You get a little bit of good pitching out of him, and then it is what it is. Like, it wasn't $14 million. That's a different conversation. It was $4 million, and that was my big argument. I was like, I totally understood where the Orioles were coming from saying, this elbow, this is a concern. But it was $4 million. And other teams seem to agree with the elbow worries. Like, he did not sign until February, and it was a 1-year, $3 million deal with the Twins. He got even less than he would have gotten from the O's. For a reliever to be that good the last 2 years and not sign until February and only get $3 million, clearly a lot of other teams were concerned with the elbow. And it's also telling that it is the Twins, who he'd pitched for a lot before, a team that knows him well, was the team that eventually gave him a chance. It tells me it wasn't just the Orioles that were very concerned about that elbow. But this is a slap in the face now, because guess what? He's healthy, at least for now, and he's doing it again. After the 2 scoreless innings in this series, he has now thrown 14 and a third scoreless innings so far this year. He's allowed 7 hits. He struck out 15 batters and has walked just 1. That is the classic Danny Coulombe we saw in an Orioles uniform over the past 2 years. Got the Twins out of a big jam with a strikeout of Mullins and got a couple more outs in the game on Wednesday. His velocity has somewhat recovered. He's more sitting 90 instead of 91. He was down to 88 when he came back from the injury last year. His spin rates and his stuff plus, again, they have somewhat recovered, not all the way back to what he was pre-elbow injury last year, but it hasn't mattered. He is still flummoxing hitters. And to be fair, like, who knows how long this elbow is going to hold up this year at age 35. and he's only thrown about half the innings he threw last year before the elbow started barking at him. And the Orioles bullpen, again, it's been the best unit on the team. It's not the part of the team where I'm like, geez, they would have absolutely needed Danny Coulombe. It's not like Danny Coulombe is the piece that would keep the Orioles from being 13-22 right now. That is absolutely not the case at all. There wouldn't even be a lot of great spots to use Danny Coulombe because the Orioles can't even have a lead late in games to use Danny Coulombe at this point. But he would certainly make the team better right now. He'd certainly make the bullpen better. And for just $4 million, that move it really sucked. And I loved watching Danny Coulombe. I think I answered a mailbag question last year. It was like, who's your favorite Oriole to watch? It's Danny Coulombe. Just the lack of velocity he had from the left side. He had the ability to mix pitches, throw strikes, hit the corners, and just make hitters, righties and lefties, look silly, which is awesome to watch for a year and a half there. And again, I understood the move to let him walk, but I also was like, it's just $4 million. And to see him having success with the Twins, I mean, I'm so happy for him. Just an amazing person as well. Beloved in that Orioles clubhouse. You could see kind of the moment that him and Ryan O'Hearn shared after Coulombe left the game in the 6th inning on Wednesday. But man, oh man, like another notch in the not a great offseason for Mike Elias camp right there is just, again, wouldn't have changed a lot of things, but it's just annoying that it was $4 million. You could have had this right now. Even if it breaks down later, you could have had this for $4 million. And instead, here we are. He would have changed it, but it's just another punch to the gut that this Orioles season has been. But maybe some positive news is coming around the corner, because for the first time, it's this week, you can actually say the Orioles are getting players back there, getting healthy again. It starts with Zach Eflin, who's going to return this weekend. We'll talk about the fallout from that and some other injury updates to finish off the show coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I am not lying to you at all. I had some sea salt Wonderful Pistachios earlier today. Recording this on Wednesday, had some earlier today. And it was the no shells variety, which truly is the perfect grab and go snack with some great flavors. But I am still going to be loyal to the classic pistachios with the shell on it. Maybe it's a Maryland thing, loving to pick crabs. I love the feeling of cracking open the shell to get to that delicious, wonderful pistachio. So get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. So we will finish some things off here with at least some positive Orioles news, right? Let's do some positive Orioles news. We have not had a lot of positive Orioles news recently. So let's do it. The O's are 13-22. They've lost 4 in a row. Their starting rotation stinks, but Zach Eflin will be coming back. Brandon Hyde said before Wednesday's game to the media that Eflin will return to the Orioles rotation this weekend when they head to Anaheim to face the Angels. Eflin was in the dugout. He's with the team in Minnesota. He'll go with them to Anaheim, and he will be activated. Now, Eflin had said last week, if I feel good, I'm only going to need 1 rehab start. And he made 1 rehab start in Aberdeen on Sunday through 58 pitches, 4 scoreless innings. And apparently that was enough. He's been out since April 8th with that lat strain he suffered, and obviously was coming in and through his 3 starts, the best starting pitcher on this Orioles team, and they have missed him dearly. The rotation has been a mess since Eflin has been gone. Now, Hyde only said he will start 1 of the games. The belief is that he'll start Friday night. It's currently lined up to be Sugano Friday, Kyle Gibson Saturday, and Cade Povich Sunday in Anaheim. So most likely you get Eflin in there Friday, push Sugano to Saturday, and push Gibson to Sunday. Just going to be a huge boost for this rotation. He's not going to save everything. He's not a true ace, but he's an awesome number 2 that's kind of masquerading as the number 1 in this current 2025 version of the Orioles rotation. But the Zach Eflin trade was incredible last year. He was great down the stretch. He was great his first 3 starts this year before the injury. He is going to give some just much needed stability to this rotation. And he's going to be the only guy. And you can throw Sugano in this mix as well, but he's going to be the number 1 guy again, where it's like, Eflin's on the mound. The Orioles have a serious chance to win this ball game, Everybody else makes you feel iffy about that. Eflin does not. That is how consistently good he is on the mound. Now, a roster move is going to have to be made unless someone gets hurt between now and Friday or Saturday and they go on the injured list to give space to Eflin. And if you want to just send someone to AAA, Keegan Akin, Yennier Cano, Felix Bautista are the only relief pitchers with options. I mean, maybe it could be Akin, but most likely none of them are going to AAA. And the two guys in the rotation are Cade Povich and Dean Kramer, who have options. Kramer coming off of 7 scoreless last week. Now we'll see how he does today in his start, but I don't think it's going to be Kramer. And then your potential DFA candidates to open space would be Cionel Perez, Matt Bowman, and Charlie Morton. Now, I talked about this a bit on yesterday's episode that I think I would like it to be a DFA of Charlie Morton. Like, I think it would send a message to the clubhouse that, hey, if you are not performing, your job is gone and we got to change up some things. But as much as I want it to happen, I doubt that Morton is actually going to be the move. There is just so little starting pitching on this team right now, even with getting Eflin back, that the Orioles' argument will be they can't afford to just release a veteran starter, no matter how bad Morton has been. He was just regular bad and okay at best in his 4-inning start on Wednesday. And they're going to be like, look, we have no other pitching depth. We can't just release a guy we signed this offseason that's on the roster right now. And as much as I hate it, I kind of get it because the reason that Morton started on Wednesday was because Kramer had to be pushed back a day and there were literally no other options. So they just had to go back to Charlie Morton. That is the place that the rotation is in. There's just not other options. So if they're not going to go that way, the Cionel Perez DFA is possible, right? He has been absolutely, positively horrendous this season. He has had by far the lowest leverage index of any Orioles pitcher in his 13 outings. It's a 9.20 ERA. He's got a 15% walk rate with a 20% strikeout rate. It's been a disastrous season for Cionel Perez. You could argue like, hey, Connor, if they were going to DFA Perez, they would have done it already. But in reality, that's not really the case. There hasn't really been a roster move until this upcoming Eflin one, where the Orioles have been forced to make a tough decision on the pitching side because the pitchers have been so injured and none of them have come back from their injuries yet that they haven't had to make tough moves. Eflin's really the first pitcher to get injured and actually come back off that injury when the Orioles do activate him in Anaheim this weekend. So it'll be the first time they have to make a tough decision. So maybe they've just been waiting for another better pitcher to be ready, aka Eflin, and that is when they're going to make the Cionel Perez move. Now, it could also be a Matt Bowman DFA. Now, it was nice to see him put up a scoreless inning in the bottom of the 8th on Wednesday in Minnesota. But before that, his last 3 outings had just been a disaster. Ballooned his ERA up over 5. Last 3 outings for Bowman, 2 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 7 runs, 4 Ks, a walk, and 2 home runs. I like him a lot, but he's also in low leverage. He wasn't even on the opening day roster to begin with, and he's struggling lately. So he's certainly a possibility. And then the other move would be potentially to option Cade Povich back to AAA Norfolk. The biggest issue with that move is you have 4 starters right now. Morton doing a spot start. I don't know if he counts in the rotation or not. But if you bring back Eflin, you move Morton to the bullpen and you have 5 starters again. If you option Povich to get Eflin back here, well, you only have 5 starters if Morton remains in the rotation. If you're optioning Cade Povich, you're trusting Charlie Morton for at least 2 more starts until you get another option here. And I'm not okay with guaranteeing 2 more starts for Charlie Morton. Even though he was marginally better on Wednesday, I'm not cool with that decision. So I really don't want that, but it is possible because then you don't have to DFA anyone and you can just kick the can down the road in terms of that tougher decision. It would give you, Eflin, Sugano, Gibson this weekend, off day Monday. You would, if you did option Povich, be able to go back to Charlie Morton Tuesday at home against the Twins and kind of go from there. So it's possible. My guess is actually that they will DFA Matt Bowman. They'll move Charlie Morton back to the bullpen as the long man, and Cade Povich keeps his spot. But we will see what the move is. The move I'd like to see is just make the Charlie Morton move and send a jolt into that clubhouse. Now, other injury news, Tyler O'Neill been out with a neck issue for a week or 2 now. He's played in rehab games. He DH'd on Tuesday. He played the outfield on Wednesday. He's probably going to get activated this weekend in Anaheim. Dylan Carlson most likely will just be optioned back to AAA in his place. And then Jordan Westberg could also be ready this week. I talked about this a little bit on yesterday's episode. It's either going to be an Emmanuel Rivera DFA or a Kobe Mayo option to AAA. It seems more likely they just send Kobe back down, but I made my thoughts very clear on yesterday's episode. Make sure and check that out, why they should leave Mayo up here and give him some runway. Clearly that's not happening because he wasn't even in the starting lineup over Rivera in Wednesday night's loss. But that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Leave a 5-star rating and a review, and like, comment, and subscribe to the Locked On Orioles YouTube page. O's will look to avoid the sweep on Thursday. They've only been swept once this year, so there's that. It is a 1:10 p.m. start on Masson. Dean Kramer did get pushed back one day after taking that line drive off his leg in his last start, but that was a start where he went 7 scoreless against the Royals. I'd like to see that again. He goes up against the 28-year-old right-hander Joe Ryan, who looks a lot like Steve from Stranger Things. Ryan's been great this year, a 2.93 ERA in 7 starts. His last time out against Boston, 6 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. It'll be certainly a tough matchup for the Orioles. And then I will be back tomorrow recapping everything you need to know from the day game, the matinee between the Orioles and the Twins. Probably do another edition of the Bullpen Trust Power Rankings. Might even be switched to the Hitter Trust Power Rankings. We'll see. And that'll get you ready for the West Coast weekend series between the Orioles and the Angels. That's coming up on tomorrow's episode. Until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.